You check your bank account. The number staring back at you isn't impressive. No commas in the right places, no "I made it" moment. Nothing that would make anyone stop and say, "Wow, you're doing well." So naturally you think, "I'm not rich." But here's something that might disturb you a little. What if the real signs of wealth don't feel exciting at all? What if the people who are quietly becoming wealthy are the ones who feel like nothing is happening? Because here's the truth nobody talks about. The loud part of wealth is the last part, the part everyone sees, the part that shows up on Instagram. The beginning? It's boring, it's invisible, and it's completely internal. If you recognize yourself in what I'm about to show you, you might already be building a life most people never reach. You just don't know it yet. Most people expect wealth to feel like progress you can see, fast results, visible rewards, people noticing, some kind of external confirmation that you're on the right track. But that's not how it works. Real wealth feels like delayed gratification, quiet decisions, boring consistency. It feels like nothing is happening because your brain hasn't caught up to what you're building. Think about it this way. When you're climbing a mountain, you don't feel the altitude change. You're just taking steps, one foot in front of the other. It's only when you look back that you realize how far you've climbed. Wealth is the same. You're inside the growth, so it feels normal, routine, sometimes even frustrating. But let me show you something. There are specific signs that reveal you're already on a different path, not the flashy path, the real one. Let's see if you're secretly becoming rich. You're learning a new skill. Maybe it's coding, maybe it's editing, maybe it's understanding financial statements. And you catch yourself thinking, where will this take me in 5 years? Not next month, not next quarter, 5 years. You didn't force that thought, it just showed up. That's the sign. Most people think in weeks. They want the skill to pay off immediately, and when it doesn't, they move on to the next thing. They're optimizing for speed. You're optimizing for compound growth. Rich people don't think faster, they think further. They're playing a different game with a different timeline, and they're comfortable with the fact that the first year might look like nothing. If you're naturally thinking in years, not months, something in your brain has already shifted. Sign number 2. You care less about looking successful. A year ago, you might have cared about the watch, the car, the things that signal you're doing well. Now, you'd rather put that money into an investment account, or a course, or building something that might pay off later. You stopped buying status, you started buying leverage. This is one of the quietest wealth indicators because nobody sees it. There's no external validation. You don't get likes for transferring money to your brokerage account. But here's what happened. You decoupled your self-worth from what other people think. And that's expensive, not in money, expensive in maturity. Most people never get there. They spend their whole lives performing success instead of building it. If you've stopped performing, you're ahead. Sign number 3. You feel bored by easy money schemes. Someone pitches you a quick flip, a get-rich-quick course, a guaranteed 10x opportunity, and instead of getting excited, you feel skeptical, maybe even annoyed. A year ago, you might have leaned in, but now you ask different questions. What's the actual system here? Where's the value being created? What happens when this stops working? This is cognitive maturity. You're no longer attracted to shortcuts because you understand they're not actually shorter, they just look faster from the outside. You've started valuing systems over events, repeatable processes over one-time wins. That shift is quiet, but it's one of the clearest signals that your financial brain is leveling up. If you're already thinking this way, you've made the mental shift that separates earners from builders. Sign number 4. You value skills more than salary. You're in a job. Maybe it pays okay, maybe it doesn't, but you're not obsessed with the paycheck anymore. You're obsessed with what you're learning. You think, is this making me more valuable? Am I building skills that compound? Salary is an outcome. Skill is an asset. Outcomes can disappear. The company restructures, the market shifts, the role gets automated. But a high-value skill, that stays with you. It travels. it appreciates. Most people optimize their career for income. You're optimizing for capability. And 5 years from now, that difference will be obvious. If you're already thinking this way, you've made the mental shift that separates earners from builders. Sign number 5. You're calm during financial uncertainty. The market drops, inflation spikes, a recession gets announced, and you don't panic. Not because you're careless, not because you have so much money it doesn't matter, but because you've built internal stability. You have a plan. You have an emergency fund. You understand that volatility is part of the system, not a signal that the system is broken. This calmness is rare. Most people are reactive. They make decisions based on fear, based on headlines, based on what everyone else is doing. You've decoupled your emotions from short-term noise. That's not just financial literacy, that's emotional wealth. And it's one of the most underrated predictors of long-term financial success. Sign number 6. You track numbers, even imperfectly. You check your net worth occasionally. You glance at your budget. You know roughly how much you're investing each month. It's not obsessive, it's not perfect, but you're aware. And that awareness is everything. Wealth starts the moment you begin measuring, not because the numbers change overnight, but because attention creates intention. When you track, you start noticing patterns. You see where money leaks. You notice what grows. You begin making micro-adjustments that compound. Most people avoid looking at their finances because it feels uncomfortable. You're looking because you know discomfort is just information. That willingness to see the truth, even when it's not impressive yet, is what separates people who stay stuck from people who build momentum. Sign number 7. Your circle is quietly leveling up. You're still friends with the same people, but the conversations have changed. You used to talk about sports, drama, what happened last weekend. Now you talk about ideas, business models, investments, skills you're learning, problems you're solving. You didn't plan this, it just happened. Your circle shifted because you shifted. Here's why this matters. Your environment is either pulling you up or pulling you down. There's no neutral. If your conversations have upgraded, it means you're surrounding yourself with people who are also building. And that environment will shape your decisions more than any book or course ever could. This is one of the most underrated forms of wealth, proximity to people who are thinking long-term. Sign number 8. You no longer ask, "Why am I broke?" You used to look at your bank account and feel frustrated, maybe even a little hopeless. You'd think, "Why am I still here? Why hasn't anything changed?" But now, the question is different. Now you ask, how do I increase my value? What skill do I need to learn? What system do I need to build? That shift from victim to builder is everything. Why am I broke is a question with no power. It keeps you stuck in the problem. How do I increase my value is a question that creates solutions. It puts you in control. This is identity shift. You stopped seeing yourself as someone wealth happens to. You started seeing yourself as someone who creates it. And once that shift happens, everything changes. The big reveal. Here's why you don't feel rich yet. You're inside the growth, and growth feels normal when you're inside it. Your brain adapts. What felt hard 3 months ago now feels routine. What felt impossible a year ago now feels manageable. You don't notice the change because you're living it every day. But if you could step outside yourself and look back, you'd see it clearly. You're not the same person you were a year ago. Your decisions are different. Your priorities are different. Your internal operating system has upgraded. But because it happened gradually, it doesn't feel like progress. It feels like nothing. That's the trap. The quiet growth doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough. It just feels like Tuesday. But that's exactly what wealth looks like in the building phase. Boring, consistent, unremarkable. The exciting part comes later, much later. And by the time it arrives, you'll barely remember what it felt like to not have it. If you saw yourself in 4 or more of these signs, you're not behind, you're early. You're in the phase where nothing looks impressive yet, but everything important is happening under the surface. The roots are growing, the foundation is setting, the systems are compounding, and one day, probably sooner than you think, you'll look around and realize you're not hoping to become wealthy anymore. You're already living like someone who is. The money might not be there yet, but the identity is. And that's the part that actually matters. Quiet growth is still growth. You're already winning. Your brain just hasn't updated yet.